Well, Anthony Albanese has begun his pre-election campaign in the mining states, pledging money here, there and everywhere. But it seems like he hasn't quite yet mastered how to keep his cool. Today, demonstrating his short fuse with a reporter who asked him a very simple question, a question that we would all like to know, about his promise to lower power bills by $275.
It's time for you to concede that your pledge to reduce electricity prices by $275 by this year, for whatever reasons, that's not going to happen. Is that fair?
Well, one of the things that we did, of course, was have a $300 energy bill relief. The Queensland government under Stephen Miles had $1,000 additional to that. That was opposed by the coalition.
That's not my question, in fairness.
That was the coalition.
The $275
I know that, but you get to do the questions, I get to do the answers. That's the way it works. And we have delivered that.
I mean, it's a very simple question. Where is that $275? If he can't answer it now on the unofficial campaign, well, what's he going to be like during the official campaign? And even yesterday, when he was asked about the slogan for his $7.2 billion Queensland highway upgrade, Albanese once again lost his composure and claimed that the coalition had infiltrated the media.
Prime Minister, you're using the slogan, Build Back Better. Did you pinch that from President Joe Biden?
We're not. That's not our slogan. Good try. I'm not sure which LNP member has sent you that question to ask, but they should pay attention, and you should be cautious about just reading out things that are sent from the LNP.
Yeah, that's when you know the polling is bad. Let's bring in tonight's panellist, LNP MP Henry Pike and Adoni Media's Lisa Goddard. Nice to see you both. Thank you very much for joining me on the program this evening. Henry, we'll start with you. What does the Prime Minister's anger and snappiness over the last 2 days tell you?
I don't think it's just been the last 2 days. This is the Prime Minister that I'm used to seeing across the House of Representatives chamber. This is the exact sort of behaviour he has whenever we ask similar questions about that $275 reduction that he promised. This is a Prime Minister who does not like any criticism at all. He can't take it. He can't take any responsibility for the decisions or the claims that the government have made that they haven't been able to live up to. And I think it's important that Australians are now seeing this side of him. And I wonder if, this is his behaviour 2 days after the holiday. What's he going to be like in the height of the campaign, fast forward a few weeks' time?
Well, this is the problem. And, he can't answer basic questions. In fact, this is a question we've been asking him for so long. Where is that $275? Day 2 of the unofficial campaign. He's already angry. And let's be honest, this is a question that's going to come up time and time again because the number one issue that Australians care about right now is cost of living. So, he can't escape it no matter how angry he is. Lisa, there is a bit of a pattern emerging, as we've just said, of Albanese being unable to keep his composure in front of the cameras. Are we starting to see the cracks appear as we do get closer to that election day?
Danica, I think what we're guaranteed of is it's going to be a very entertaining election campaign when it officially kicks off, because if he is this testy at this point, we are in for quite a show, I would suspect. And look, I media train executives and CEOs for a living. I teach them how to manage the media, and he is failing on 101 of basics of media training. You have to understand you are never going to win an argument, as we know, with a journalist. Your job is to speak through the journalist to the audience. And goodness me, if that isn't the Australian voter who need to actually pass judgment on him and his performance. So he is doing himself no favours. He is going to get bombarded with more and more of these questions. So my advice to Prime Minister Albanese is he needs to actually go back to some basics and learn this is not a jousting match. He's not out there to try to, say, well, you're the talking points of the LNP, or how dare you ask me that question. He needs to actually think about what he wants the Australian voter to hear. And at the moment, they're not particularly happy with Labor.
No, exactly. Well, the polling certainly suggests that. But you're right. In the end, journalists have the right to ask these questions. Yep. And it's going to be a very long campaign if he keeps that anger management going. So stay tuned. We'll all be waiting with bated breath there. Now, look, staying on the election, an expert pollster has found some really pretty interesting findings on how this year's election could shape up. Director of Redbridge Group, Kos Samaras, says for the first time, we are starting to see evidence that out of suburban voters that have been historically voting for Labor are moving directly over to the coalition. Now, despite that good news for the coalition, it's still unclear whether Peter Dutton can take those vulnerable seats. Samaras adding, there is so many seats now in these two big states of New South Wales and Victoria that are just up for grabs, but it's unclear who's going to grab them. Henry, there seems to have been a trend now with multiple polls that Labor is falling foul of voters and the coalition is starting to pick up speed here. How do you interpret this? I mean, it does feel the coalition is in with a genuine chance.
I think this research is reflecting what coalition members are seeing on the ground. Representing an outer suburban electorate myself, I certainly can tell you that Anthony Albanese is not the most popular man in Australia, and progressively that has been increasing as we've gotten further and further into his premiership. I think that a lot of outer suburban, but also a lot of regional and even inner suburban voters are turning on the government. I think this research sounds pretty accurate from what I'm seeing on the ground. But I think that obviously we've got a long way to go in this election still. And there's a lot of work that my side of politics is going to have to do to try to win the trust of the Australian people. But knowing Peter Dutton well and knowing the commitment and the work that he puts into it, I wouldn't bet against him.
No, absolutely not. I mean, there's still many months to go. It's a very long time in politics, but certainly that there has been a turnaround. Lisa, what does it say about voter sentiment towards Labor?
Well, you've got basically people who have been now identifying as being centre or slightly centre-right in traditionally Labor voters. So you've seen the Labor Party move to the left, and they've left this whole pocket of the voting public to sort of look at, well, where are we going to place our vote now, which opens up an opportunity for Peter Dutton. I think just a few days ago, Danica, we had research come out which said that it's women who are focused predominantly on cost of living. So they're making, 80% of the decisions when it comes to purchases for the home. They're the ones predominantly who are in the grocery store, seeing how this is impacting them. They'll be looking for somebody to provide relief and provide solutions when it comes to cost of living. And I would think Peter Dutton should go in there and make that very strong connection between you're hurting with cost of living, put the argument for nuclear, which is energy. Energy will help bring down your cost of living. And I think that's the path he needs to try and win back that women vote as well.